In May 2021, 100,000 tickets go on sale for the two-day ASTROWORLD 2021 festival, reportedly selling out completely within an hour. Travis would go on to tweet that despite the show being sold out, he would still be planning to sneak the wild ones in. From here, promotional videos are released seemingly encouraging fans to break in using footage from the Stampede at the 2019 festival. Ooh, so much hype, I can't wait to rage at ASTROWORLD 21. And eventually, the day finally comes. On Friday, the 5th of November 2021, fans begin arriving at the ASTROWORLD Music Festival at NRG Park in Houston, Texas. The operations plan would state that the festival was fully sold out, with the venue expecting to welcome 50,000 fans, opening the gates to the public at 9 AM with plans to start the festival from noon. Apparently, wristband scanners were intended to be used to determine whether or not someone should actually gain entry to the event. However, as early as 10 o'clock in the morning, logs from the fire department record that the venue's fences have been damaged and organizers had no control over people trying to get in. And apparently it was recorded here that 4 concert goers were already injured in this initial rush on the gates. But things didn't stop there. At 11 AM, firefighters apparently noticed hundreds of fans heading towards the gates and dismantling them. By 11:33 AM, it said that more people were storming the gates and the police shut down the merchandise table. By 12:17, firefighters had reported that a number of people had broken through the gates into an adjacent lot, with reports of some even using bolt cutters to break through barricades. At this point, the police apparently detained a handful of people, but ultimately festival organizers would let them go. At this point, injuries were already being reported, with people taken to hospital, with some suffering facial trauma and a woman receiving lacerations from climbing a fence. But from here, things would get rapidly worse, as it was said that by 2 PM, thousands of Travis fans were rushing the gates a second time, flooding the stadium without tickets. So all of these rabid Travis fans enter the venue completely unaccounted for, and they begin having a good time, partying and moshing while there still appears to be a decent amount of space before the full show started. And at this point, more injuries were reported, but things would continue to get slowly worse as the crowd begins to swell. Meanwhile, fire department logs record that concert goers continued to charge at gates and push down fences in these hours before performers had even hit the stage. At 4:51 PM, the Houston Police Department records engagements with concert goers pushing down fences, with the police describing the crowd conditions as dangerous. At 5 PM, during Don Toliver's set, unconscious women were apparently seen laid out on the scene, with no medical personnel attending to those in need. Around 8:30 PM, a timer appears on the main stage, apparently counting down towards Travis Scott's set. This would cause many fans in the crowd to push towards the front of the stage, trying to get a better view for Travis's set.
As the timer got closer to 0, it got really, really bad. I couldn't even turn my head to tell my boyfriend anything. I mean, we were packed in there, so I had people shoving me from behind, shoving me from the front, on both sides. It's getting really hard to breathe.
At 8:39 PM, concert goers capture videos before Travis's set has even begun, showing dangerous levels of overcrowding, as concert goers are forced over barricades and security attempt to treat unresponsive people on the ground long before Travis Scott had even got on the stage. And then at 9:02, Travis begins performing as fans continue to push even harder towards the front of the show. At 9:04 PM, only 2 minutes into Trav's set, we see people in the crowd climbing on top of each other and the mass of people swirling around like a vortex.
Houston, Texas, make some motherfucking noise!
Other reports came out suggesting that people were passing out in this crowd within minutes of Travis Scott walking on stage. At this point, Travis Scott begins to play his hit song Highest in the Room, during which time he walks right to the front looking directly into the crowd. And at 9:08 PM, he begins to play his song Butterfly Effect whilst directing the crowd, with on-the-ground footage showing fans making space for a mosh pit. At 9:11 PM, Travis finishes playing his song Butterfly Effect and moves into the next song, Stargazing. At this point, a video shows fans trying to escape the overcrowding. And then at 9:13 PM, when Travis moves into the second part of that song, we see the crowd going crazy close up as the beat switches.
Say ASTROWORLD! Say ASTROWORLD!
At 9:16 p.m, Travis Scott begins to perform his next song, Carousel, as aerial footage captures large surges in the crowd as people continue to flood the venue and push towards the front of the stage. And at 9:17 p.m, Travis Scott addresses the ragers in the crowd, letting them know that this show is about to get crazy.
All the real ragers around here, you know what time it is, so get your section straight right now. And to everybody that's watching at home right now, I want y'all to see a little bit of how we do it out here in Houston real quick.
And all the while this is going on, crowds are continuing to push to the front of the stage. After finishing his next song around 9:20 p.m, Travis would take a breather and bask in the crowd chanting his name. But as Travis soaked up the adulation from his fans, something caught his eye in the crowd, as Travis would notice somebody sat up in a tree, pointing them out for all to see, completely unaware that the reason they had climbed the tree is to escape the deadly overcrowding going on in the crowd below.
Hold on. Turn the lights on. I think I see somebody in the tree. Turn the lights on.
And whilst Travis points out this little rebellious rager in the tree, security is seen behind him telling fans to get back from the stage. However, at the same time as that, another angle shot within the crowd would show panicked fans frantically yelling for medical help and receiving none.
I see somebody in the tree. Turn the lights on. Turn the lights on. Turn the lights on. Make some noise for my boy right there hanging in the tree right there.
So from here, Travis begins to play his next song, Party Never Ends, encouraging his ragers to go nuts as the tragedy begins to truly take hold. Ironically, somebody is seen at the crowd at this point holding up a sign that says, "Will we survive?" Sadly, many wouldn't, but none of that would matter to Travis Scott, who would continue bopping up and down on stage, paying very little mind to the tragedy unfolding in front of him. However, that would change for a brief moment after this song, where Travis appears to notice somebody distressed in the crowd, telling somebody called Mike Brown to make sure that they're good.
I got my man Tom Sachs in the motherfucking building. Legend. And whatever he needs to, we gotta get, yo, Mike Brown, make sure he good. Elijah, walk with him. Take him.
Alright guys, I looked into this, and on closer inspection, it turns out Tom Sachs isn't a fan that was in need that Travis was trying to make sure was okay. No, Tom Sachs is just some guy who apparently sold Travis Scott a painting of Krusty the Clown for over $200,000. But I think we know who the real clown is, don't we? Travis would continue his set after this, to around 9:27 p.m, when more members of the audience are seen waving for help. But it was at 9:28 p.m, according to firefighters' logs, that shit begun to get real, as the Paradox medics, who were hired to give medical attention at this event, are described as overwhelmed and unequipped to handle the number and complexity of the patients injured at this event. And then, to make matters even worse, at 9:29 p.m, Travis would tell the audience that he wants to see the ragers.
I want to see some ragers, man. Who want to rage, man? Yes, sir.
At which point, yet another mosh pit opens up, and during this time, fans would share videos of a mobile ambulance attempting to move through the packed crowd trying to help the injured. Travis himself then even notices the ambulance in the crowd from the stage, initially identifying it correctly as an ambulance, before then backtracking and asking what the fuck is that?
It's an ambulance in the crowd. Whoa. What the fuck is that?
We got you, Travis. You saw it was an ambulance. We all saw you saw it was an ambulance. And at this point, according to fire department logs, at least 5 911 calls had been received from the crowd, reporting people unconscious and needing CPR, with multiple people reported trampled and unconscious at the front of the stage too. At this point, Travis Scott would then ask the audience if they're feeling okay, and if so, to put their middle fingers up in the sky.
If everybody good, put a middle finger up in the sky. Okay, where my guy, man? Come on.
Not really a standard welfare check, is it? And as soon as Travis said that, a live camera feed right next to the ambulance that was trying to get through would show that ambulance blocked in, surrounded by people holding their middle finger up to Travis on the stage, giving zero fucks about the tragedy going on around them. Now, you see, Travis, if somebody's really hurt and in distress, they're not going to be able to hold their middle finger up, are they? I know some people have pointed to this moment of Travis asking the crowd if they're okay as an example of Travis actually looking out for the welfare of the crowd, when what he was really doing was diverting their attention away from the danger going on around them and failing to direct them to let the ambulance through so that it could potentially save a life. We know you saw the ambulance, Trav.
It's an ambulance in the crowd. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
And even though he saw that ambulance and it was obvious it was trying to do something important, Travis focused the fans' attention back on himself and his big performance / ego, which was much more important than anything else going on in that crowd in front of him. And at this point, 2 people even appear on stage apparently telling Travis Scott something privately. But whatever it was, it can't have been as important as Travis's performance, because he simply brushed it off saying, yeah, all of that.
Yeah, all that. 2 hands to the sky. 2 hands to the sky.
2 hands up, y'all 2 hands up.
Y'all know what y'all came to do. Chase me, let's go.
Before launching back into his performance. That's right, after seeing an ambulance in the crowd with his own eyes, and then being approached by 2 members of his team, which he shrugged off immediately, Travis will just push on with the show, playing his Rager anthem Upper Echelon, and telling the crowd that they know what they came here to do. You know, the sort of thing they do at all the other Travis Scott shows. As the show swings back into full motion, those 2 men who had approached Travis on stage would then jump feet first into the crowd, I assume kicking people in the face, as a huge pyrotechnic show goes off behind them, surrounding the stage in flames and creating a scene that looks like something quite literally out of the depths of hell. And at this point, all hell would truly break loose. After ignoring what he correctly identified as an ambulance in the crowd and moving on, the last chance to prevent a tragedy is lost as Travis launches into his next song. It's clear there's no stopping the Travis Scott train as his ASTROWORLD festival continues its rage fest. And once Trav finishes that song, he takes a little breather. And this is actually the first time in the official recording of ASTROWORLD that we can hear his fans screaming for medical attention. Yes, amidst his panicked crowd's cries for help, this is the moment that Travis Scott is elevated far above his crowd on a raising platform. Ironically, this would give him the perfect vantage point to spot if anything bad was going on in his audience. He then goes on to launch into his recently released song Mafia, a very shallow affair all about all the custom things he has, living the high life and seeing himself on the cover of magazines. Shit, I wonder if he enjoyed his face being on the cover of all the papers the next day. Anyway, as Travis continues to sing, medical staff would continue to give chest compressions to dying members of the audience, piling their bodies onto the back of golf carts, desperately trying to get them out of the overcrowded venue. With all of this being documented in amateur video that is far too shocking to show you on YouTube. At 9:34 p.m, Travis begins performing his next song, Lost Forever. At this point, a video shows a man and a woman climbing up onto a platform and pleading with a camera operator for help and to end the show.
People are dying. I want to save somebody's life. That's somebody's kid.
2 hands to the sky.
I want to save them.
Chase me, let's do.
Unfortunately, their efforts were futile, as were the efforts of the medical staff, who at 9:37 p.m, unable to get where they're going in order to give help, that ambulance that was seen in the crowd gives up and attempts to drive away from the stage. And at this point, Travis Scott begins warming up for his next song, Skeletons, at which point he rather tragically tells the crowd that he can see them clearly all the way to the back.
Shit is fucking beautiful.
I see you all the way in the back!
A very ironic statement for Travis to make, only seconds before 9:38 p.m, the time that Houston city officials state that a mass casualty event is declared. Apparently, Houston police at this point had seen people collapse firsthand, with CPR being performed on numerous lifeless individuals, with it being said that soon after this mass casualty event was announced, organizers from Live Nation agreed to end the show, with this coming apparently after a direct conversation with city officials, but for some reason, reasons that still at this stage aren't very clear, Travis Scott continued to play. All the while, calls with the emergency services are being recorded, discussing the severity of the situation on the ground and asking why hasn't the show been stopped.
I'm over at the medical tent and there's a lot of people trampled and they're passed out at the front stage.
The unit asking about trampling, I guess they're pulling them out and taking them to the back.
They were getting multiple reports that people found out unconscious in the crowd.
HBCP to unit interrogated reports. Right now, that crowd is super thick, super dense. If you go in there, this could possibly turn into an officer rescue situation, and that makes it extremely dangerous for everybody. So right now, if you can get in on the perimeter, get to them. If not, try your best and go commands into that crowd to help out. Other than that, be careful.
we're going to stop the show because there's people trample and they're not breathing.
You guys are doing well. Take a breath. Everyone's doing a good job. Now listen, what I need is for people to get things under control at the medical tent. HFD's been advised. They are listening to our channel, and they're pulling people in to come and help, okay? Help is coming. Just take a deep breath and relax. We'll work through this.
We're having some structural issues that could be catastrophic, and we need everybody together. No small groups. 10 or less is unacceptable.
Looks like folks are coming out of the crowd complaining of difficulty breathing, crushing type injuries. Seems like the crowd is compressing, from what I could tell. I was on the Delta side, and I probably saw at least 4 or 5 people pouring out of the crowd, just trying to get away from the crowd. The comps are still going on. The crowd is compressing, is compressing, and the intel we're getting is that the barricade might be compromised or being compromised. So the crowd is compressing. Does anybody have eyes on Seth with Live Nation?
TP to anybody that's close to Seth with Live Nation, can you advise?
At 9:39 p.m, 16 fire department units are dispatched to the NRG Park venue. All the while, Travis Scott continues bellowing his track Skeletons in front of a crowd now officially in danger. But hell, at a certain point, even Travis Scott himself couldn't ignore the mass casualty event going on in front of his very eyes. And around 9:42 p.m, Travis Scott would stop the show very briefly.
Let's play it slowly. We need somebody to help him. Somebody passed out right here.
Asking security for help with an unconscious fan, but then continuing to perform around 30 seconds later as the fan was carried out, with an enormous number of fans in the crowd chanting "Stop the show" and being ignored. At this point, footage in the crowd captured the heartbreaking moment that a lifeless body is crowd surfed over the railings to security right in front of Travis's very eyes. And after this, fans continue to chant "Stop the show."
Stop the show! 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 Stop the show!
Well, he doesn't. People are reported as being laid out without a pulse on social media, but Travis just keeps on giving his fans the hits. At 9:46 p.m, he's playing his Pop Smoke-assisted banger Gotti, and by 9:50 p.m, he's launching into his early hit Antidote. And by 9:52 p.m, as people continue to die in the crowd, Travis tells everybody from the front to the back to put their hands in the sky.
Everybody from the front to the back, 2 hands in the sky.
Now, in hindsight, this would be a pretty deadly instruction, as numerous members of the crowd will report that it was so crowded that if you put your hands in the air, chances are you would not be able to get them back down. Only a minute after Travis's deadly request to the crowd, at 9:53 p.m, the Houston Fire Department would dispatch 12 more units in an effort to try and get this deadly situation under control. Not helped by Travis Scott, who is still on stage performing, telling his fans that he wants to see more rage.
Houston, I want to see the motherfucking rage. Houston, I want to see the motherfucking rage. And Chase B, I know what's going to give it, Chase B. Let's do it.
But at 9:54 p.m, it's time for the main event, when none other than Drizzy Drake appears from beneath the stage as his latest hit, Knife Talk, begins to play. Now, this is where it gets very scary, because you've got Travis Scott either unaware or just aware and negligently ignoring the fact that people are dying in his rowdy crowd. But then you've got Drake, who has been off stage the entire performance, which means that he had been standing off stage with access to social media, a phone, the event's organizers, and Travis's management for 16 minutes after Houston declared this event a mass casualty. And for whatever reason, the biggest musical artist on earth decided to go out there and join Travis in front of an already surging crowd where people are dying so that he can get the crowd more hyped. And it was at this point during Drake's performance that people would climb on top of that ambulance, still unable to leave the crowd, dancing and twerking. At 9:57 p.m, Travis and Drake address the crowd directly, telling them it's going off from the front to the back, as Drake calls Travis's festival the biggest in the game.
I'm gonna need you to keep sending this motherfucker off from the front to the back.
All right. It's been a really long time. Actually, this is the first time in like maybe 2-3 years since I've been on stage in America. I feel blessed to be at the biggest fest.
Drake would go on to pucker up and kiss Travis Scott's Astro arse once more, saying just how bright and influential you have to be to pull off a festival like this.
This shit doesn't happen every day. You gotta be one of the most influential, incredible, best dressed, best musicians, with one of the brightest minds and the biggest fan base to pull some shit like this off. So once again, make some motherfucking noise for my brother Travis Scott. This shit does not happen every day.
You're right, Drake, and there's a good fucking reason for that, you clown. Drake would go on to perform his next hit, Too Sexy, though I'm fairly certain that him and Travis aren't too sexy for an enormous lawsuit. And after that, Drake and Travis would embrace once again for another cursed monologue, as Drake tells Travis to savor the moment and take this historic moment in. And Travis, as a final nail in the coffin, tells his fans to make the earthquake, while him and Drake perform their monster joint hit, Sicko Mode.
I want you to take this shit in. I want you to take this shit in.
Okay.
This is your city.
Okay. If I know one thing, from the front to the back, we better make this motherfucker earthquake.
Yeah.
Chase B, what the fuck is we doing?
These two are truly sickos, and as you can imagine, the crowd went absolutely mental upon hearing Drake and Travis do their joint song live, all while an enormous fireworks and pyrotechnics display goes off behind them. At 10:07 p.m, Drake wishes fans a farewell and leaves the stage.
I love y'all. ASTROWORLD Fest, there's nothing like it.
And after that, Travis addresses the crowd once again, telling them to give their neighbor a hug.
Look at your neighbor, make sure you give him a hug, make sure that you always saving the next person next to you. Make sure that you always spreading love. The only thing that we do this festival for, and everything that we do for life, is to give back to this community. So I love y'all so much. Before we go, I just want to send you with one more motherfucking message.
Oh, Travis, your crowd is already hugging each other. They don't have a choice. Now, that little clip of Travis checking on his crowd was one of a few that ironically circulated after the disaster of this event came to light, as apparent proof that Travis had stopped the show and asked his crowd to look out for each other at certain points in the show, apparently overlooking the fact that a mass casualty had been called 30 minutes before this, and Travis hadn't left the stage once. Now, I personally wouldn't be surprised if this was Travis's team circulating these little moments as damage control, putting out out-of-context clips to make it look like he was looking out for his crowd that night, when he was in fact asleep at the wheel. For the record, quite a few of these little snippets have circulated on Instagram after the fact, trying to paint Travis in a positive light, along with very suspicious captions like, "This is the footage they don't want you to see." Travis doesn't want you to see any of this footage, people. Anyway, after his final little motivational speech on stage while people in the crowd are dying, Travis would perform his final song of the set, Goosebumps, leaving the stage at 10:12 p.m, telling the crowd to make it home safe.
To everybody that came out to this festival and performed at this festival, I love y'all so much. I can't thank y'all enough. I owe y'all forever. Everybody, I love y'all. Make it home safe. Good night!
Well, a lot of those people unfortunately would not make it home safe. Unlike Travis, who before heading home after leaving the festival through the back door unscathed, would head on over to another party after ASTROWORLD, one that Drake had apparently thrown at popular arcade game spot Dave & Buster's. So while Trav partied the night away playing arcade games with Drake, emergency services hung around at the scene of his festival for hours, identifying bodies and trying to save the hundreds of people who were trapped or injured at his ASTROWORLD festival. A true man would have rolled his sleeves up and helped.